In this video, we will be talking about expired strategies you might be using in your Amazon business. We have our guest Vincenzo Toscano from Econsci company. They are full service agency for Amazon sellers, and he will share some, I think, 6 strategies which you might be using in your business, and it might not be working anymore, and you will hear why and what could you do instead of that. And I wanted to mention that this session we're doing incorporating. Maybe let's invite Vincenzo. What I'm talking alone here. Hi, Vincenzo.
Hello, Augusto. Thank you so much for having. How you doing? Pleasure to be here
Yeah,
as usual.
yeah, it's a pleasure to have you here again. And I wanted to mention that EcomSci is sponsoring our upcoming Prague event, European Seller Conference, which is happening in the beginning of March 2025. And thanks, Vincenzo, for supporting this event. If you are coming to this event, you will meet Vincenzo there as well and his team. And you will find the link below in the description if you want to join us in Prague as well. And yeah, we'll talk today about expired strategies or strategies which don't work anymore. But before we go into the content, I know Vincenzo has a slide deck. Vincenzo, let us know a little bit about yourself. You are very active. Many people see you everywhere. So let us know why do you do and what do you do?
Yeah, first of all, once again, it's a pleasure to be here. And for those that are considering going to the Prague event, I just have to say this is something you cannot miss. Like Augustus and his team always make sure that he brings the best speakers around the world. Especially if you are in Europe, this is something that you cannot miss because these are some experts that are flying from very long, far away to come here and teach you the best things when it comes to Amazon. So make sure you take action on the link below. So when it comes to myself, yes, I'm very active. I travel a lot. Maybe if you guys follow me around, you see me pretty much on a plane every single week. The reason why I do that is because I love adding value to entrepreneurs, specifically Amazon sellers in the industry that unfortunately might not have the tools or the expertise to scale the brand on Amazon. That's what we do when it comes to 24/7, like really figuring out what are some of the best strategies out there in terms of execution that can basically be tailored to your specific brand so you can have a successful journey, especially in 2025. That's all about profit because we always talk about revenue, but let's be honest, how much money you put into your pocket. And those are going to be some of the strategies we're going to be talking today. Like, what are the things you have to avoid, and what are the strategies that are making a difference in brands when it comes to scaling them forward? Yeah.
Amazing. Nice to have you here again. And while you are preparing the presentation, I wanted to mention that if you have any questions, if you're watching live, if you have questions, type them in the live chat. And if you're watching the replay, you can type your questions and follow up, comments into the comment section below. And if it's a question for the replay, then we will ask Vincenzo to join the chat and answer your questions. If you're watching live, we will talk after the presentation and you will have an opportunity to provide questions to Vincenzo, and let's see what he has to tell to us. So, Vincenzo, let's do it. We see your slides and
Yes.
we're ready.
Awesome. Welcome, guys, to this webinar where I really want to highlight, what are some of the latest strategies I have seen people keep implementing on a daily basis. And some of these, are very dangerous for your business because they can get you suspended. Some of them are not going to practically scale your business forward. And some of them are actually allowing your competition to eat more into your market share, which in the long term is going to lose you money. So what we're going to do today is walk you through everything from A to Z, and I'm going to essentially explain why those reasons behind these strategies are not working and how you can tailor them to your specific brand. Now, a little bit about myself very quickly. So myself, I've been in the industry for over 8 years now. So I started as an Amazon seller. My background actually is aerospace engineering. I jumped into the industry because I wanted to do something on the side. I essentially started my own business, and my Amazon journey started to go very well. Started going to events like Orange Klik events, and I figured out, you know what? Everything that I've been doing for my brands, all my expertise is actually something I can use to add value to other people. And that's where my love for consulting and essentially adding value to entrepreneurs started. And that's where Ecamsi was founded. Now in Ecamsi, at the beginning it was only myself. Now we're over 60 people globally, where we help brands scale on Amazon and now also Walmart and TikTok. And we manage a portfolio of over 9 figures when it comes to revenue that we generate for our clients. So we have a lot of expertise when it comes to really understanding what is working and what is not when it comes to successfully scaling brands on the platform. So when it comes to also myself in terms of this on the agency, I also have a podcast which I invite you to check out, which I had people like Augustus and so many other experts on board, the e-commerce lab, which is a way for me to give back to the community to really highlight what are some of the latest strategies and things that you have to consider to successfully keep scaling your business forward. So let's dive into the topic, and let's start with that, with the first strategy that is not working anymore, guys. That's keyword stuffing. So I'm sure all of you have seen across the board, like, Rufus has been a huge a topic lately, like really understanding how Amazon is implementing AI, specifically Rufus, to proactively essentially analyze your listings and use that analysis and understanding behind your listing to recommend your products to other consumers. Now, effectively, what we've been coming in terms of in the background, we still been doing constantly is always keyword stuff. And the reason why that's always been the case is because many years ago and still until beginning of last year, some of the strategies that used to work the most is having as many keywords and as many phrases and multiple times in your title, on your bullet points, on your description, on the back end, to make sure you get as much exposure and indexation to those keywords. Now the game is completely changing. In fact, a couple of weeks back, Amazon just rolled out an update when it comes to titles that you cannot proactively repeat the same word on the title. And this is just the direction Amazon is going. Amazon wants to make sure that you effectively giving a good experience to your to the specific clients by not having these listings that essentially are huge pieces of text that sometimes are overwhelming and significantly reduces the conversion. So doing keyword stuffing is not working anymore. Make sure you're using tools that proactively allow you to understand how to avoid this. And some of the tools I'm quickly going to mention that have been working very well for us is, for example, Helium Tailwind Data. Those are the tools that we use to proactively make sure we're not overusing keywords that are not actually going to add an extra incremental exposure to the listing. Now, as I briefly say, beyond the actual impact that's going to have in terms of the conversion, the customer experience, the fact of using keyword stuffing when it comes to a listing optimization is heavily affecting the perception that Rufus is having over our listing. Something that we use lately, for example, to optimize for Rufus is Amazon Recognition, which Amazon Recognition, for those that don't know, is one of the tools as part of the AWS kind of universe that Amazon offers, right? In terms of tools that they have beyond Amazon as a marketplace. When it comes to that kind of tool, if you actually start experimenting with it, you're going to notice that if you start doing keyword stuff, it actually penalizes the perception that Rufus has over your specific listing in terms of the usage of the product, also the relevancy of the content and the tonality, which is also very important. So we have to make sure that we change the perception of doing keyword stuffing to actually making sure our content is very relevant. So when somebody's asking a specific question to Rufus, based on the tonality and the text we have on our listing, Rufus recommend our product over the competition. So another thing I also want to mention is when it comes to keyword stuffing, and the way we fix this is not only about making sure we use less keywords and they're actually relevant, it's also about strategic placements of the keywords. Another big mistake I see is that people spend a lot of time on making sure the copy makes sense. In this case now, reducing the keyword stuffing, putting essentially only the keywords that make sense in terms of relevancy, but they lack understanding what is the impact of putting these keywords across different places throughout the listing. And this is something, for example, that we implement a lot in terms of auditing and fixing with tools such as, for example, Helium Tailwind Data. Now we can proactively understand by where we place the keyword, either on the title, either on the bullet points, or either on the description, how that impacts the potential we can call it exposure that the listing might have in terms of getting ranked. And we all know title is the place where you're going to get the most use and the impact when it comes to a keyword. So understanding this is really key. And this is something, unfortunately, I still see a lot of people failing. Like they keep putting things on the title that have essentially not the same weight as other keywords that are on the bullet points. And that is going to make essentially a negative impact on your listing over time if you don't fix it. Let's jump into strategy 2. I know a lot of you know that when it comes to reviews, people is always on top of trying to figure out how to get more reviews on Amazon. And this is something that's nothing new. When it comes to creating reviews on Amazon, there's always been essentially the black hat techniques when it comes to incentivize reviews. But the reason why I want to bring this strategy here to the conversation, I want to talk about why this is a no-go 100% in 2025. What is the reasoning in terms of what is the risk of you doing this? And then I'm going to tell you what are some of the alternatives that are going to allow you to create reviews that can actually create a meaningful impact on your list in terms of the experience you give to your customers, but beyond that, really improve the conversion. So the first thing is understanding that anything that's to do with fake reviews, incentivizing reviews, giveaways, and all of that, unfortunately, that's gonna get you shut down. I can't tell you, especially the last couple of weeks and months, the conversation on reviews is being very, very serious in terms of how many people is getting shut down because of this, because people is getting very stressed about the fact that I'm launching on Amazon, I have no reviews, I go around and start asking for reviews, and Amazon is now better than ever when it comes to this. So please stop doing this strategy in 2025, because now on top of that, by implementing AI, Amazon has become so much more clever than what it used to be the last year, and they're gonna crack you down so fast. So make sure you don't do that. So instead, what you want to do when it comes to reviews is really figure out a way by you providing an actual product and experience for your product. The actual people is incentivized on their own to leave a positive review when it comes to on your product listing. So one way that we do this is two, right? The first one is something that you must have regardless when it comes to creating a customer experience, which is providing a good product. But people lack the extra edge when I talk about customer experience, like something that I see people not leveraging as much anymore is, for example, anything that has to do with the purchase behavior once they get the product on their hands. Like, what happens when I open the packaging? Do I actually interact with something else? And I know there is a lot of gray area kind of topics around here, because there's things that you have to be careful, especially on the language. But as long as you're adding value to this specific journey, like this is something that has maximized significantly your reviews. A very quick example, and something that actually we have a couple of brands now doing, and it's significantly improving reviews, and it's within terms of condition, is usually when you get a product, and this is a clever idea, I invite everybody to explore it, is we're lately been using NFCs, a kind of tags on a products. NFCs is something that you essentially you put on an insert or a product, and when the font gets close to it, essentially you get a prompt on the font. So why we're doing this? Because first of all, we want to create a unique experience when it comes to effectively interacting a product, like the fact that now when people is opening your packaging or getting our phone close to the product or the insert, they get a prompt on their phone. It's something that 99% of your competition is not doing. And to add that prompt, we add a ton of value. We add like training videos if it's a sport item. We add cooking guides if it's something to do with kitchen. We do home decor strategies if it comes to something that you put on your living room. It goes on and on. Like, so many ideas that you can put on this landing page that will prompt on the phone. But the idea is to add a lot of value. At the end of the day, it's giving to the point that the client feels the need to actually share his experience. From the moment we start doing this on a lot of more brands, the amount of reviews we've been getting is being immense. And we actually never mention reviews throughout all this experience. That's what I'm saying. Like, we really put thought on what is the experience that the customer is having. So focus on that 2025. And the Amazon buying program, of course, I keep mentioning this because even if for some of you is common sense, you'll be surprised how many times I jump on calls and people don't know that this exists. So I just wanted to bring this to the presentation for those that might not be aware of it. Now, strategy number 3, discounting. So I know there's always this perception that, I need to keep my prices as low as possible. I need to essentially be the cheapest offer on the results page. But the reality is if you start being very aggressive with pricing, there's a couple of things that are gonna happen. Okay. The first thing that's gonna happen is if you start effectively reducing your price significantly, you start destroying the perception of your brand and your product. That's the first thing. But now let's jump into the technicality side of things. When you start playing with pricing, now we know how Amazon is being super aggressive with essentially defining the history behind your specific product when it comes to pricing. That means the baseline of your price gets effectively destroyed to some extent. Now you can run coupons as much as we wanted or specific deals. Now, you are forced to sell at so much lower prices, because otherwise you cannot leverage the tools that Amazon gives when it comes to specific budgets or specific promotion on your product details pages. So that's why it's not only about perception and ruining the the value that you give as a brand in the marketplace, is the technicalities of things that Amazon has been implementing, especially last year when it comes to pricing. So something we're putting a lot of value when it comes to working with brands is how we make sure that we stay within a competitive price, but at the same time we adding as much value as possible. So the competitive price, guys, the answer is very simple. Like, you're gonna find, like, and this is something that was surprised a lot of people is not aware of this. If you go to brand analytics actually, if you start analyzing by month, it's gonna break down some the price baseline as a specific in a specific keyword, specific product. So now what you can do with this, you can go historically on a specific niche, right? And you can figure out what has been the price fluctuation from month to month. Now, a lot of these things I'm saying, guys, you have to be mindful that it's a manual process. You have to download the report for the last 6 months, understand what is the baseline price for your specific category, and then figuring out if this is the baseline price that was for February, March, April, May last year. Most likely, I'll need to make sure my price stays competitive within those prices. The reason why I said that is because if you're not mindful of this, of course, I understand we need to keep the position for brand and pricing, but you also have to be realistic of your market. Like, if you price $80 now when you're launching and everybody's at $40, you're gonna have a very difficult time. So make sure you stay within that bandwidth where consideration doesn't get destroyed. And when it comes to value, guys, it all comes down to what you're giving in exchange beyond the actual product. Like, I know a lot of the conversations have obviously to do with creating a bigger bundle experience, which to some extent is easy to say, but very difficult to execute. Like, sometimes the answer for this is in front of you. Like, you have access to data such as frequently bought together. Brand analytics give you basket analysis. You can figure out what other people buy with your product. So try to reverse engineer what are the things that people will need beyond your product and added value. And then, of course, you can complement this with the example I briefly told you, like with the actual post-purchase experience in terms of digital assets. That could be a significant added value that could allow you to really stand out from competition. Now, let's start jumping more into more kind of technical strategies, now relying only on organic. I have these kind of scenarios all the time. People come, we jump on an audit, and they say, "No, I don't really want to run any advertising. I only want to effectively control my sales and my exposure through organic." And that's a big mistake. I know there's a lot of debates out there when it comes to this, and so people think that sometimes when you put advertising down, you might get sometimes the same amount of sales, or you might actually not slip down in rank. But I can tell you for a fact, after reviewing hundreds, in fact thousands of brands, having advertising as part of the strategy is always key. It has to be part of the equation. The reason is simple, is because that's how the algorithm works. If you don't get sales through a specific keywords, Amazon is not going to reward you as much as your competition getting sales through advertising. Of course, there is some exceptions to the equation here. If you're Coca-Cola, if you're Disney, you can get away with this. But let's be honest, 99% of people on this webinar, we are not. So we need to make sure that we understand the value of advertising, and we proactively make sure that this works in synchronization with organic. Because if you don't, over time, what is going to happen is your competition is going to eat into the backdoor in terms of discoverability, and it's then going to be very difficult for you to regain the market share control. So effectively, a way to essentially leverage this new strategy, which is combining advertising with organic, is understanding what is the effect of you making sales through advertising and how that affects your organic. Which brings me to a small parenthesis I want to make here when it comes to that. You really need to understand when you reach the point where advertising sometimes is on the extreme of actually shadowing your efforts on organic, because that's also the conversation we have to have. Right now we're talking about too much organic and no advertising, but I also see the other scenario, too much advertising to the point that you cannibalize the efforts you're getting on organic. So it's very important. It has to be synchronized. Essentially, whatever you're doing organic, as a quick example, if you already rank very high on a specific keyword organically, let's say position 1, then you have to really make the question to yourself, does it actually make sense for me to pay for top of the search on this specific keyword, when realistically the CPC is going to be very high. Most likely I'm going to be paying for that click that's going to happen anyway because my organic is very high, and I rather invest these dollars on a keyword where my dominance of the market share is not as high as this specific keyword. So that's very important that you consider that. If not, that's where the situation usually starts to happen. They start slipping the ranks, and then essentially the strategies start to overlap each other. Advertising has to be part of the equation every single time. So in 2025, please do make sure that's the case, because I have seen so many brands that they went all in on organic, and I have seen then the damage that caused to them. It's going to be very difficult for you to regain market share control. Now, this brings me to a deeper tier within the advertising conversation, which is essentially strategies that proactively are a cookie cutter approach. Effectively, these kind of strategies, what they do is you try to just target too many keywords at the same time. There's no personalization behind what you're actually doing with the ads. And what you end up doing is that you try to attack the masses, right, and the niches, which where really the money is when it comes to scaling brands on Amazon. Something that I heavily use here is understanding what is the actual customer I'm trying to target behind my ads, because I feel the conversation has to shift here when it comes to running ads on Amazon. A lot of people always focus on keywords, keywords, and keywords, but have you actually sometimes sit down and rather than just doing the typical copy paste methodologies of looking for 10As and reverse engineer them and look at the keywords? What is the actual type of clients that's looking to buy from me? Like, there's so many tools out there, specifically ChatGPT, that now tells you exactly what is the type of a consumer that could potentially buy from you. And the reason this is very important is because then you start shifting the mentality of only focusing on keywords to actually, how do I tailor some of these campaigns, specifically sometimes on the terminologies, or this then start, of course, affecting also your copy and your images to make sure that your message is tailored toward the right kind of audience that you want to tap into. Super, super important. Please stop doing that approach of just copy pasting kind of the, reversing your competition and just assuming those are the keywords, because I can tell you how many times sometimes when we run those keywords through AI and then we add also intention and consideration and also relevancy, some of those terminologies tend to change, and that significantly affects the performance of our PPC. Now, something I really want to tap into is understanding how you can effectively get insights when it comes to that. Brand analytics, and I keep bringing brand analytics guy because it's my best friend when it comes to this, gives you so much data when it comes to that. Like, for example, brand analytics now give you demographic information, so you can get things such as the age, the gender, a level of education, of income. That's already a lot of insights you can use for your insights when it comes to advertising, but also copy. You can then combine this with AI. In this case, ChatGPT is very good tool when it comes to reverse engineer reviews of your competition or historical data from brand analytics or your brand, put it in ChatGPT and processing that. But then all these to some extent can go to a waste if we don't then tailor this kind of insights regarding my demographics with the actual opportunity that Amazon gives me in terms of type of targeting that I can do with advertising. This happens a lot of times, like people get only stuck on the basics of advertising, right? Which in this case is sponsored products. But what about sponsored brands, a sponsored display, even DSP, which is something I'm going to tap into next? Like all these kind of placements, you will be surprised how many people haven't mastered yet, how many people don't really understand how to really get a return on investment on these type of placements, because they tried once, they did it incorrectly, unfortunately, that get them an outcome that made them come to a conclusion that, this type of placement don't work. And there's a lot of essentially inventory available. When I say inventory placements, that you can now tap into, and sometimes can be more profitable than traditional as sponsor pros. So it's very important that you make sure all the type of ads are part of your strategy. Otherwise, in 2025, trust me, I've been having calls with a lot of brands. They're getting very savvy, especially with things such as DSP, and they're really gonna, have a good approach when it comes to stealing your traffic, re-engage your audience, and essentially steal it from you. Now, DSP, which is where I'm gonna come next and essentially come to a closure. The reason why I wanted to leave this as last is, I think when it comes to the type of things that are gonna be create the most impact in Amazon 2025 is DSP. The reason is very simple, guys. Essentially, Amazon, what is doing with the data that's giving us and the implementation of AI, they're slowly transitioning from being an ACO kind of approach platform to being more a platform that is focused around the behavior of the consumer, and essentially what are the kind of historical data that this consumer has been doing with our products, your brand, and so on. This is essentially programmatic advertising, right? So why this is important to understand? Because DSP is all about that. DSP is all about understanding and reverse engineer certain behavior, certain engagement throughout the funnel from top to bottom. And based on that and based on specific patterns, now you can practically tunnel a vision in terms of focusing your budget on specific kind of audiences that you know you can maximize your dollars. Like we're talking with DSP guys, the granularity that you can get is huge. Like we're talking like with DSP now, combining it with things such as Amazon Marketing Cloud, which we're already doing with some brands. Now we're able to tell you exactly what kind of touch point is the most effective for you. I can tell you if somebody goes to your website, then they go to an organic exposure, then they go to sponsor brands, and then they go to a sponsor product and they make a purchase. Or if they come from DSP, or if they come from a specific type of targeting with the sponsor display, for example. I can tell you exactly the touch points that you need to maximize return on investment. But guess what? This is the kind of the silver bullet. Now you can actually also figure out what is exactly the type of audience that you have to build and then re-engage to maximize things such as, for example, re-engagement on your product details page, like people that has left a cart abandoned on a purchase, or people that are tend to have a high tendency to subscribe and save, people that tend to have a higher kind of a purchase kind of rate within Amazon. Things even to the, for example, location, a specific kind of granularity. Like we have a brand that, for example, he's more profitable in the California, New York area. And with DSP, we are able to re-engage all the customers that are re-engaging with competition and his brand on this location. And only by that, we managed to significantly increase his profitability and revenue, because now, not only we managed to localize at a specific in this case, geographic location. On top of that, we created audiences. And this is going to be the game changer thing for Amazon. Audiences is essentially for those that most likely have run ads on Meta. It's going to be the thing that you can scale significantly, because now by you understanding an audience of age, gender, and all the different things that will define a person are the consistent behavior that will buy from you. Now you can create a lookalike audience similar to what you will do with things such as Meta, and you can essentially scale 10 times farther than traditional advertising, because not only you can engage with them on Amazon, you can engage with them outside of Amazon. And that's usually what happens when brands come to us and say, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Like I see I'm doing very well within Amazon and running advertising just as my competition, but why they make so much more sales than me? Why the market share control is so much bigger? Usually, if you go deeper into the conversation and we start looking at the numbers, DSP is the reason, because they're essentially tapping when it comes to audiences and touching your clients in different placements that you are not doing, because DSP follow you outside of Amazon. So this is something, guys, that in 2025 you have to implement, because if not, I'm seeing it. A lot of brands are losing a lot of traction because of that. So that's everything from me, guys. Of course, these are only a few of the many strategies that are not working in 2025, but I just wanted to highlight the ones that I really think are going to have the biggest impact when it comes to implementing them now and adjusting to make sure that they don't affect your business. But yes, feel free to ask any questions. And of course, as you can see in the screen, if you want to have a deeper conversation, exploring how we can help you with these strategies, or make sure some of these strategies are implemented and tailored to your brand, scan the QR code on the screen and we'll make it happen for you. So yeah, other than that, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me, Augustus. Yeah, as usual.
Thank, thank you, Vincenzo. Amazing. The last one was surprising to me. I didn't know that DSP is probably shouldn't be considered anymore. Well, it's good to know. And actually, we have a question in regards to. I know. I thought we have a question.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
we have.
Consider should be considered. That's the thing. That's a big mistake. Yeah. Can
Yeah.
sellers use DSP within an
Without,
agency? Or yeah.
or is the
So
use of DSP tied to having an agency?
yeah. So yeah, that's a very good question, Alberto. So essentially, what Amazon has done is you have to a couple of ways to do DSP. The first one is you can do it directly to Amazon, but unfortunately, for most brands, it's very expensive to do so, because you have to commit $100,000 spent for example, in the US per month. So for a lot of people, it's very high. So what you can do instead is you can work with agencies like us, it comes here, that we have a direct seat with Amazon, and you can start with as low as 5,000 per month, for example, running DSP. And the second approach is using a software solution that they would kind of resell the kind of seat to you for you to kind of have an exposure to DSP. But the disadvantage with this kind of approach when it comes to using it through a software solution is that usually they use a kind of templates or pre-made kind of audiences, and they don't give you the granularity that you get to the direct Amazon dashboard when it comes to you having a seat directly with Amazon. So if you really want to have the best control of DSP, usually doing it yourself or through an agency is the one that's going to give you the best outreach. Yeah.
Great, thank you. And yeah, I wanted actually Alberto was asking a question. I believe Alberto is coming to Prague, and those who missed the beginning of the webinar, I wanted to mention that once again that we are having European Seller Conference in Prague in just a few weeks. So join us in the beginning of March this year. We have a lot of great people coming, especially from US. Some speakers coming. Let me show you the speakers. So I wonder if Vincenzo you're participating in so many events. Let me know if you haven't, which people you haven't met. So yeah, we have.
I think I have met all of them many times already.
All of them, yeah. So yeah, a lot of people, some Europeans, some from United States, and it was
that's why it's a no-brainer. Like all these people, like otherwise it would be so difficult to connect with them and learn. And the fact that they're all under the same roof is like
and actually what we are bringing this year, something which we will try is we are calling it Lightning Talks. So if you participate in this event, if you purchase a ticket or if you're sponsoring the event, you will have a possibility to apply to deliver a 10-minute presentation, a short one, and we'll have 6 of such presentations. So this year we are trying to open up the stage to anyone. Of course, if there are more than 6 applications, then we will have to select because we have just 1 hour for the session. But it will be a great way for you if you ever wanted to be on stage and try to think what you could speak. This is an opportunity. Or if you have something to share with the seller community, what works in your business, you're also welcome to join the event and apply for having of 10 minutes on the stage. So this is what we're bringing this year. And as you see, among the sponsors, we have Ecomc. Thank you, Vincenzo, for supporting our event once again. And let's continue with more questions. So we have Amara. She says, great session. And she or he, I hope it's a woman, I don't know. By the name, for me, it's a female name. Sorry if it's a male. What is the best way of organic ranking in top 10?
Yeah, so I would say organic ranking at the end of the day comes down to effectively what is the conversion and sales velocity you're having on the platform. So the reason why this is very important is sometimes people assume that just by generating sales, that's going to get you on page 1 organically. And unfortunately, that's not the case. You have to show and prove to Amazon that your conversions within your competition standards. And the way you can figure that out is with brand analytics. The answer for this and the reasoning behind why Amazon does that is very simple. Why would Amazon put you organically on page 1 if, regardless of you already been making sales now, your conversion is very poor? That means most likely you're wasting the traffic that Amazon is sending to the specific search throughout their journey within the marketplace. They want to make sure that if they're putting it out there for free, effectively, you're going to convert the traffic. So that's why it's not only about making sales, because you can make sales and lose like $100 per sale, and you could be making hundreds of sales, but your conversion is very, very bad, which is why it's all about making sure that conversion stays within the standards. So the way I will come down to crack high level in terms of how to optimize conversion comes down to a couple of things, which I briefly mentioned, which is making sure you have killer content. In images is the number one thing I will invest the most money when it comes to a product. Then my copy. And then on top of that, the other thing I will invest a lot of time into figuring out is effectively the economics to make my product as competitive as possible. So making sure I have a margin, of course, but also making sure that I invest a lot of time on my sourcing. Sometimes 80% of the win when it comes to making money on Amazon is on sourcing. You choose the wrong supplier, and the rest is going to be effectively not scalable, because even if you have the best strategy out there, you don't have the money to work with. So make sure you implement those things, and hopefully it's gonna play out properly.
All right, thank you. Gabby is asking, on what specific area in brand analytics can you see the price?
So usually, if you go to brand analytics, you're gonna find a section that is a search query performance report, and usually within the search query performance report, you're gonna be able to see the price of the transaction. So effectively, what I actually can do for you is I'm gonna then write on the comments effectively what are the different tabs you have to go into. So because if I say, you might get lost, but is within brand analytics on the search query performance. I'm gonna put the steps on the comments for you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Amara is asking, I'm currently going with high TOS and ROS placements and suggested bids for exact match single keyword campaigns and going good with rankings. Is there any other effective way?
Okay. Okay. Cool. So effectively, just for those that and I'm assuming when you say TOS is top of the search, right? So he and rest of the search placement. So for those that don't know what it means, top of the search means position 1 on page 1, and rest of the search is page 1 in the middle, page 2, and beyond. So effectively, what I will do when it comes to this is using suggested bids sometimes can be a bit tricky, and I'm going to tell you why. Because you're going to find the suggested bids first of all are dynamic, so it's going to be dictated by what the market is doing in terms of bidding. So I will of course use that as a baseline when getting started, but realistically what I will do over time is try to reverse engineer what are the right bids for me, right? Because sometimes certain bids might not be profitable for you in the long term, so you really need to understand how you can design a bid that is going to make sense for you financially, and you can easily calculate that by understanding, what is your margin, what is that reflect in terms of ACOS, which is effectively a good way to quickly understand what is the margin you can work with, and understand which bids mathematically based on your conversion make sense. Because if you don't, you might fall into the trap. We just see that all the time. You go with a suggested bid, you overspend on bids that are never going to make you financially feasible, and then that can be a tricky way for you to maintain your business going. Now, just to conclude this 10 of short, something very important here is you also want to make sure that bids at the beginning, especially when you're getting started, are aggressive, of course, because if you're not as aggressive as your competition, you're not going to show. But at the same time, you need to make sure you then deal down these bids to a baseline, because if you don't and you always keep them high, which is something I see every single time I do an audit, that's effectively not going to make you profitable. So, and your conversion most likely is going to start suffering as well. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And all right, this we answered. And Alberto is really coming to Prague, and he says, I'm coming again, or maybe for the first time, with a VP package. I know, again, with the VP ticket, because last year he found it very interesting by meeting all the experts at the tables. So yeah, whenever we have VP day, which Alberto is joining, we have a VP masterminds, which I will show the screen. Yeah. Okay, so during the VP day, VP sellers will have quite a full program from the early morning. From 9 o'clock, we will do a short speed networking session. Then we will have a fun game of darts. We will have a private tram in Prague. We will travel together. We'll have a lunch in one restaurant, and then we will have those VP mastermind sessions, which Alberto was mentioning. It's this year we will have John Derkitz, Matt Altman, and Vanessa Hunk hosting the VP mastermind tables, and then in the evening we'll have another VP dinner with all the speakers and sponsors and VP sellers. So yeah, join us. And also after the main conference on March 6 and 7, we will have on March 8 3 workshops which are planned. It's on Saturday. We have a full day workshop with Brandon Yank, and then 2 half-day workshops with Matt Altman and Joe Lambadieva. All the information you will find on the website, and you can find the link below in the description of this video, of course. All right, I think we are done with the questions. Gabi is happy with the answer. Thanks. And one more time, Vincenzo, I will show you your screen where people can connect, and remind us what you do and how do you help Amazon sellers.
Yeah, so our core focus, guys, is to make sure that we practically implement the right strategies for you to scale the brand forward on Amazon. So it means everything from A to Z, because we are a full service agency. So we can help you on the PPC side of things. We can help you with DSP, brand creative, ACO, international expansion, external traffic, everything under the sun when it comes to Amazon. So if you have an issue that includes Amazon, most likely we can add value to you. So just book a call. Let's have a conversation, and most likely there's something we can do for you to make sure you have a successful journey in 2025.
Yeah, thank you, Vincenzo. I'm showing your website. You can see a lot of services Ecomc is providing, and you say book a call. So what is the book a call button?
So actually, all those buttons that you can at the top of the website, get a quote or book a
book free consultation. Yeah. Okay, so yeah. And you get a call directly with you or with one of your team members?
With me.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. And it was a pleasure. See you in a few weeks in Prague.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's
a pleasure. Bye-bye. See you.
Bye-bye. And now I would like to invite you to watch other video where you will hear some tips on whenever you will decide to expand your Amazon business to Europe. So check this out, this other webinar we did recently.